And welcome back to another episode of our 2026 club previews. I'm joined yet again in this collaboration with Wobble and Jaw Sports. Sam, mate, how are we?
I'm doing really well, man. Hope everyone out there is all good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. And as you can see to the right-hand side of us, we are taking on the Manly Sea Eagles in episode 9 of our 2026 club previews for this upcoming season, Sam. But first, we'll start off this potty, mate, with a look into the 2025 campaign for the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. So, as you can see, in round 1, unfortunately for your sake, Sam, they had a really good victory against the North Queensland Cowboys, 42 points to 42 points to 12, should I say. But unfortunately, the week after in round 2, they got it handed to them by the New Zealand Warriors, 36 points to 16 over the ditch. They then responded in beautiful fashion against the eventual minor premiers, the Canberra Raiders, in round 3, winning 40 points to 12. Then they moved on and they took care of the Parramatta Eels in round 4 at home, 26 points to 12. And as you can see, there's a nice consistent theme in that first month there, Sam. 3 games at home, 3 victory royales, only the 1 loss, and that was away. That was over the ditch in New Zealand, and that is a pretty good start to the season for the Manly Sea Eagles. 3 from 4. They were flying pretty high, I would say, at that point. But then, unfortunately, against the good old Melbourne Storm, we saw the Melbourne Storm against the West Tigers put a real break to proceedings with a 64-0 defeat to the Tigers. Melbourne dished the same sort of punishment, not as bad, but 48 points to 24 they took down Manly in a bit of a reality check. And sort of, again, I hate to say it, but the Melbourne Storm really do like to start downwards spirals for other clubs, because the weeks following, they went down to the Cronulla Sharks in round 6, 24 points to 18. They then lost a close one to the Dragons, 20 points to 18 in round 7. They then, fortunately, bounced back against the Penrith Panthers in a good result there after 3 losses in a row. They were able to bounce back against the Panthers, leading into their first bye in round 9 with a 26 points to 10 victory over the Panthers. They had that first bye that I just alluded to. A bit like the Tigers with coming back from bye rounds. Not good for Manly. They got pumped 30 points to 14 in their first game back from their first bye in round 10 against the Sharks. They then took care of, unfortunately for your sake, Sam, the Cowboys again in round 11. Not as bad of a scoreline for the Cowboys, but a convincing result nonetheless for Manly, 24 points to 6. Round 12, Parramatta got revenge. They won 30 points to 10 in round 12. And I remember calling this game with Sam, round 13, 34-6 against the Broncos. And this was probably the loss that the Broncos used to spearhead the back end of their campaign, but it was a convincing result. I remember Manly just outplayed the Broncos in all facets in that round 13 clash. Unfortunately, after that, they then went down to the Newcastle Knights, 26 points to 22. Then they went down again to round 15 to the Titans, 28 points to 18. And then they went into their second bye round, Sam. So, look, that Storm loss has really put a lot of losses starting to flow into the column for the Manly Sea Eagles after that round 5 game. They lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 9 games in the middle part of the season there. So that Melbourne loss again has forced a spiral in the downwards direction for another club, Sam. So they had that second bye in round 16. They were able to respond in a positive way this time after their bye, and they took a care of the West Tigers 28 points to 10. Then after that, in round 18, they were able to take care of the South Sydney Rabbitohs 30 points to 12. They then had their third and final bye, and then they got some revenge. They took down the Melbourne Storm 18 points to 16 in round 20, Sam. But they followed it up with a stinker. They followed it up with a stinker against the Dogs, went down 42 points to 4 in another game you could argue has spearheaded the downwards direction for Manly for a couple of games at least, and that is what happened. They lost to the Roosters 20-4 the week after that. So back-to-back weeks of only scoring 4 points after such a good start in attack, the Manly Sea Eagles. We saw them score, I think, 40 like 3 times in that first 4 rounds. Let me go back and have a look. 40, twice in that first 4 rounds, but still scoring 16 and 26 points outside of the 42 and 40. So they were scoring a lot of points. And then at the back end of the year here, they've gone 4 points and 4 points in round 21 and 22. 23, they went down to the eventual minor premiers, the Raiders, 28 points to 12. Raiders got revenge after the early Sea Eagles win against them in that fixture. The Tigers got revenge as well for their round 17 loss and took down Manly 26 points to 12 in round 24. Round 25 saw Manly come back in a big way, and they ended the Dolphins season with a 58 point to 30 victory in a huge game for Manly, which was a diabolical performance. Let's be honest, by the Dolphins with their finals chances on the line. But a credit to Manly, they went there and did the job at home in DCE's second last game at home. They then went to the Gong and or Jubilee, should I say, not the Gong. They went and took on the Dragons at Jubilee and won that one 40 points to 24, Sam. Then they beat the Wars by a field goal to send DCE out a winner for his Manly career, and a 27 points to 26 win over the Wars. So they finished the last 3 rounds of the season really well, Sam, but unfortunately, that middle part of the season into the back end was diabolical for Manly, and that saw them unfortunately just miss the 8 there, even with that really good run with those 3 consecutive wins to end the year. 2 points out of the outside of the top 8. So what are your thoughts, man? I thought it was a bit disappointing, but they did have a few injuries. But what did you make of that? I guess another thing, actually, before I get your thoughts, and you'll probably touch on it, is the Cherry Evans decision. A bit like not as much, or did dominate the press there for a little bit, nowhere near as long as Lachlan Galvin, but the DCE decision there with, not coming to agreement with the Manly to extend beyond last season and that he's going to move on. I thought while I thought he was doing the right thing by just giving everyone a heads up and that what he was thinking and that he was going to be moving on, sort of didn't really get the results from the players. I thought that Cherry Evans was not too bad. He wasn't great. He wasn't horrible, but he was all right. But it seemed like his teammates were really distracted or affected by the decision, it seems. We know there was some issues again with off the field with does Cherry Evans have a good relationship with Anthony Seibold? How does Cherry Evans get along with the Manly management, Scott Penn, blah, blah, blah. And that sort of started to come to play. And I just think that it, again, similar to like the Tigers we touched on in the last episode, they just lost it in the middle of the year, and then they started to find the form at the back end, but then it was just too late. So I think that was a DCE's decision, just like Galvin sort of had a bit of an impact on Manly in the middle of the season, but I don't think Cherry Evans's performance were the reason why. I think it was just some, disagreement between and the players were a bit taken back, I guess, by, a club legend leaving the club, with basically, at the end of that season. So, look, could have been a lot worse, but 10th with that team, I wouldn't say it's a failure, but I'd say it's a solid effort considering the injuries. They had a few, Turbo going to center and Lehigh going to fullback, and Lehigh overall had a pretty good 2025. But yeah, I think Manly fans would be a bit disappointed just with that middle part of the year, because if you look at it, if they could have scraped a couple of wins throughout that period there, they would have made the 8. So anyway, what's your thoughts, Sam?
Manly have been inconsistent for the past 3 seasons now. And this year, like the past 2, they would lose to the teams that they really should or were expected to bash, in the likes of a Newcastle, losing to the West Tigers, losing to the Gold Coast Titans, even though that was an Origin-affected game. But then you see results where they bash the Broncos, they beat the Penrith Panthers, and then they beat the Melbourne Storm in one of the upsets of the season, in my mind, man. So they're a frustrating team to watch, and I agree that the DCE announcement backfired. It distracted the players and it distracted DCE. He lost touch for a strong 2 months, I'd suggest, in that middle portion of the season. And yeah, just looking at the draw again, it was that loss to the Melbourne Storm, wasn't it, in round 5 or 6 there, whatever it was, that really had them miss out on the finals, going on that losing streak there. Yeah, so I think the announcement of DCE definitely distracted them and hurt them. It also disappointed Tom Trbojevic as well, who wasn't clued in by Tony Mestrov, I think was the ex-CEO. So there was some back-of-house situations that was starting to come to the fold, and then they lost Olakawatu for a period of time as well. So injuries did play a factor, not a big factor, but it did play a role in them losing the opportunity to play finals footy in 2025. But yeah, the story is that they were consistently inconsistent again, and it showed in their losses to the Knights and the Titans, and in their victories against the Panthers and the Broncos.
Yeah, weird season, Sam, but I guess I think that there's a bit more clarity now around Manly going into this season. DCE's not there. Turbo's the captain. He's the leader. The Trbojevic trio's there. They've got, a minor premiership winning halfback coming in to replace Cherry Evans in what I think's a great replacement, considering, it could have gone to, like, say, they've gone to the future in, say, like a Joey Walsh or something like that. And, he just doesn't, it would have taken a bit longer, I guess, maybe, with Fogarty there, I think it keeps them in finals contention. Whereas if they went to like a Walsh or something, I think it'd be like, okay, they're going to more develop, bring the young fella through and whatnot. So I think the Fogarty signing, as you can see there, he's looking great in the Manly colours. And we hope he goes well and, can fill the void that, let's just say, a massive void that Daly Cherry Evans has provided at the Manly Sea Eagles. Yes, last year wasn't his greatest season, but when I think of Manly in this day and age, I think of Daly Cherry Evans and all the good things that he's done, the amount of field goals that he's kicked with the wrong foot or his weak foot, and the amount of times he's led that Manly Sea Eagles team single-handedly to a victory. So they're going to have to do that without Cherry Evans, and let's hope that Fogarty, for Manly fans, can do a job. So let's move to 2026 and, what the Manly Sea Eagles have got going out of the club at the end of 2025. 5 season into this 2026 season. So looking at the losses and the gains. So the losses for this season is they've obviously lost Cherry Evans. That's the biggest one of them all. No one will come close to that one. That is the big one that we've already touched on, and Sam will probably touch on a little bit more. Massive loss. I just touched on it a bit before, actually. Segued beautifully into the losses. Next one is there's a few retirements for Manly. So Josh Alloy has retired. Now, I'm pretty sure that was due to like was it his shoulder or was it? Yeah, I think his shoulder was cooked basically. So we wish Josh all the best in his next stage of his career. Michael Cheekham as well. He played for a few clubs there in the recent times, the Rabbitohs and Manly. I think before that was the Tigers. So yeah, he was fill it all in or fill in player that could play multiple positions, play in the back row, could play in center if need be. Very versatile player. Didn't mind Michael Cheekham. We wish him all the best. Another early retirement. Michael Cheekham was probably at the back end, so that one's a bit self-explanatory, where Lockie Croker and Josh Alloway, I think, are a bit different. Croker, yeah, unfortunately, just had medical retirement for Croker. Was that shoulder as well again?
Maybe also concussions played a factor too.
Yeah. So yeah, really upsetting for Lockie Croker. I liked Lockie Croker. He had a couple of great years before. I think it was like 2023 or 24. He had some really good campaigns there, but unfortunately now he's got a job. He's got a job dealing with Manly, coaching, I think Manly New South Wales Cup or Manly Juniors or something like that. So that's good that he's still around the club, and it's good to see Manly looking after him. But yeah, gone way too early. But yeah, unfortunate, but we wish Croaks all the best. Jake Arthur, look, he didn't really play that much at all, if at all, for Manly. Might have played like 1 or 2 games, I think. He is off to Hull FC in the Super League. Also got Gordon Chan Kum Tong has gone to the Bulldogs. So that's a bit of a loss in the hooking department and halves department for Manly thus far, as well as, basically hookers and halves thus far, apart from the forward, a couple of forwards in Cheekham and Alloway that we've gone through already. Atsy James has been released by Manly. Matthew Lodge is headed up north to Sam's Men with the Cowboys. Dean Madison has gone to the Super, over the Super. I don't know where that is. Do you know where Super?
Super 13?
Yeah.
No, not off the top of the dome, mate.
I'm going to check right now. Super 13, it looks like it's a French rugby league competition. Super 13 is the top level rugby league competition in France. So Dean Madison's gone over to play some football over with the French. And Chris Patolo has gone to, as you can see in the photo, the Huddersfield Giants. So that's another loss in the forward pack there for Manly. Now, this man, Toafofa Sipley, he did get suspended a few times, but I thought he was he was very handy. A bit surprised by this one, I think. I thought he was very handy when he got an opportunity for the Manly Sea Eagles, Mr. Sipley. So I think this is an underrated loss, in my opinion. I think it's actually quite a big one, considering, with the likes of Paseka, now Lodge as well has left. There's a lot of pressure on Paseka to stay healthy. He's had horrible luck. We really wish him all the best. But yeah, that leaves Manly's middles a bit light. Tommy Talau, look, he was great, Sam. Tommy Talau was great when he filled in for the Manly Sea Eagles. He had a really good 2024 campaign. Tommy Talau didn't really play as much as I would have thought he would have in 2025. But guys like Clayton Falalo and those type of guys really had, really good years, which sort of kept Tommy Talau sort of, just couldn't really get in and play as much as he should have. He's a handy signing for the Roosters, good depth signing. Might come in if there's a few injuries or whatnot in the back line. Jazz Tavanga, look, he was just Jazz Tavanga. He was worked his ass off, played through injury. You know what you're going to get with Jazz Tavanga, provides some coverage at hooker and was really good in that period where Jake Turbo missed a lot of time at lock. So, I think, again, and a bit like Sipley, a bit of an underrated loss, I think, Tavanga. And the last one is Raymond Tuivala Vanga. Or Vega. He was, came in and played a few times, winger, rangy winger, very, very tall, big, large. He could do a job, but just unfortunately just couldn't really get a spot. I guess like Clayton, other guys like that, just have sort of gone in front of him in the pecking order, and unfortunately he's just fallen a bit behind and out of the club, basically, Sam. So what are your thoughts there on the losses? I think for me it's the DCE, Sipley, and probably Tavanga, I reckon. Matt Lodge was good, but he just didn't play as much as I would have liked. But Josh Alloway was good as well. Croker. There's a couple of big losses there, to be honest, Sam.
100%. 100%. I think Toff Sipley as well was a really strong player when he wasn't taking people's heads off. But no, he was a really good player. Matt Lodge is going to be a loss for them. Losing both of your hooking options, Kumtong and Lachlan Croker, that's going to be massive for them to overcome. So there are some pretty important pieces that have been there for a while that have moved on. So, and I think they will be felt enormously.
Yeah. So that is the 2026 or the 2025, 2026 losses. Like, they're obviously gone at the back end of 2025, won't be there for 2026. Looking at the gains, Sam, for Manly, so into this 2026 season, yes, that's a hell of a list that they've lost coming into this season, but who are these guys that are going to come in and, help out, fill the void for these losses? We've touched on Jamal Fogarty. I need to fix that. There is a mistake there. He's come from the Raiders, not from the Sharks. Mr. Fogarty is there, led Canberra to a minor premiership. I guess the only question mark with Mr. Fogarty, with the utmost respect, is being able to ice a big game. I think is probably something that I think that he still needs to add to his repertoire or sort of handle it. I think hopefully with under Siebes and Manly, he can do that job for the Manly Sea Eagles with that huge loss. Matt, he's stepping into basically to fill the footsteps of a club legend. Like, it really doesn't get any tougher for a player, and he's going to be under a real heavy microscope, Sam. If things don't start well for Manly, they're going to be looking at Fogarty with the caliber of player that Cherry Evans was. I hope it goes well and he takes it. I think he'll do a great job, but it's just really tough circumstances for Jamal there. So wish him all the best. Quality player. Love Jamal Fogarty. Could also he could take the goal kicking from Ruben Garrick as well. So that could be an interesting duel there. Who's going to do the goal kicking between Garrick and Fogarty? We will have to wait and see. It was also with, I guess, a loss not for 2026, but a loss for 2027 with Ruben Garrick going to the Roosters. A real bad loss for Manly. Garrick's been there for a long time, been a quality player. So it's a big loss for them, but they back to the gains, and Kobe Hetherington, they get the premiership winner from the Broncos, Kobe Hetherington. I think he'll be very handy, especially, with the uncertainty and the precautionary with Jake Trojevich there, with the amount of head knocks that he suffered last season and the amount of time he missed, having someone like a Kobe Hetherington, I think is, with his age and whatnot, a bit better than a Jazz Tavanga there to help out in that lock position. I think we'll see Kobe Hetherington play a hell of a lot of time for Manly at the lock position, way more than he did for Brisbane, unfortunately, behind a quality player like Pat Carrigan. I think Turbo could spend some time, Jakey Turbo, that is Gerbo, will spend some time at prop, I reckon, with that sort of lack of depth that we touched on, Sam, at that prop position for Manly. You've got Blake Wilson, has come from the Bulldogs, so that's a good replacement there for like a Tommy Talau, for a Tuamavalo, Vega, a couple of these backline players that they've lost. A good player to get back in Blake Wilson. I bloody love Blake Wilson. From up here in Queensland, Sunshine Coast boy. He was great for the Doggies. Just unfortunately got stuck behind, Kiraz and other players. So I really hope he gets a fair crack at Manly. And I think if there's an injury to the back line, I think Mr. Blake Wilson will come in, pardon me, and do an absolutely fine job for the Manly Sea Eagles. And the last man, like you said, Sam, lost a bit of hooking depth there with Chan Kum Tong and Croker retiring. So it was good. And Tavanga actually moving on. So it was good to get someone like a Zach Docker-Clay, who's done it for the Roosters for the past few seasons when he's need to come in off the bench. And look, he's not the greatest player of all time, but he's a solid player. And I think he'll flourish in this opportunity with a bit more regular time at first grade, rather than being stuck behind like Connor Watson or Brandon Smith or, like guys like that for the Roosters. So, yeah, I think they've sort of filled their gaps. I think if they'd like signed a prop, I think it'd be the perfect 2026 gains, Sam. But otherwise, I think it's a pretty good list of gains. What are your thoughts on it, mate?
I just echo your sentiments, mate. Yeah, Fogarty does come in with a lot of pressure. So Hetherington, I've always liked. So no, man, I echo your sentiments, mate. You're exactly right.
Okay, so I didn't want to add too much more. That is absolutely fine. I've fixed up my mistake and added Mr. Fogarty for the Raiders, not the Sharks. My apologies on that one. But we move to your neck in the woods, Sam, and that is the train and trial and development players for Manly for this 2026 season. Starting off with none other than one of my former, went to the same school as me, I guess, one of my former Nudgy men, Mr. Hugo Hart, Sam.
Yes, mate. So for the first 6 names here, they are all on train and trial, and then the final 6, they are on development contracts. So Mr. Hugo Hart here, he moved to Southern California and played varsity football over there, and was a linebacker in the gridiron game. So he's got some explosive speed on him, I would imagine, to be a linebacker and play varsity football over there. He then returned to Australia, lived in Brisbane, played for your school, as you just said.
College, yep.
Yes, yeah. And then Mr. Hugo Hart then got picked up by Manly, and dude, he's only played about 20 odd games of rugby league in his professional sporting career. And he has played SG, he's played Jersey Flegg, played New South Wales Cup, all in his first year of rugby league. He is only 20 odd years of age, man. And for him to be on a train and trial and be locked up for another couple of years after that as well, I believe, Hugo Hart has got a massive opportunity ahead of him over the next 12 months to impress, to get a top 30 spot. So Hugo Hart is massive. Viliami Fafita is the next name. He was just with the St. George Illawarra Dragons, and been following him for a couple of years now, and he just hasn't been able to quite crack it. So hopefully he can impress throughout this season. Will Canovo, I'm sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. He has come from the Newcastle Knights, and he actually captained the SG ball team over there. So that's a good pickup for the Sea Eagles there. Tyler Melrose, he's a very young player, barely 18 years of age, and he's just coming through naturally. He is a halves player. We've also got Anders Johansson. He is coming from the Bulldogs. He was part of the SG Ball Grand Final for Parramatta, and he's a big one. I think we could see him with the departure of Ruben Garrick next season. Anders Johansson should definitely put his foot forward and maybe claim a backline spot for 2027. So it's a big 12 months for him. Ashton Large, not much out there about him. He is a hooker. And the same with Keanu Mann. He is a second row player as well. So now we move into the development players, and Paul Bryan. For those who remember, he made his NRL debut for Newcastle last year against Penrith, and the poor bugger in the first tackle that he ever made did in his shoulder, and he had to stay out there for a further 15 minutes, the tough bastard. So he's also from Queensland, from North Queensland actually originally, but he's gone down to Newcastle, and now he's been picked up by Manly. And I thought Paul Bryan, in his efforts, from what I've seen in New South Wales Cup in his first grade debut, he really rips in. I really like Paul Bryan, so hopefully he goes super well this year. We've got Brandon Wakeham. Last name there at the bottom. We know who Brandon Wakeham is. Fiji international, played with the Tigers, played with the Bulldogs, and now he's there for some backup half depth. Hopefully he doesn't have to be used, but if we do see him again, that'll be good. Josh Felaherty, he was part of the Manly pathway system early on in the 2020s, and then he shifted over to the West Tigers, and he made his first grade debut a year or two ago, and only made a couple of one more appearance since then. But Josh Felaherty is also an under-19s New South Wales representative from 2024 or 2023. So he's got some class about him, and he's back to where he wants to be in Manly. So hopefully he succeeds. We've got Deja Zare Pua Avase. He's come from North Queensland, and he made over 20 appearances for the Manly Sea Eagles in the New South Wales Cup in 2025. So that was his debut for New South Wales Cup last year. And then the last name on that list, Jackson Sherab. He has come from the Norths Devils last year, but he was part of the Dragon system for a very long time in the early 2020s. But he was able to get a top 30 squad in the Dragon system in 2023. But he has gone up to Norths Devils last year, played a part of that team that was successful, and now he's part of Manly on a development contract. So of the names there that I'd ask Manly fans to look out for, I think Paul Bryan might knock on the door of a first grade appearance in 2026, honestly. I also think that Viliami Fifita, I've always liked him. I'm not sure why he's not really ever been able to crack it, but watch out for him. Anders Johansson, maybe not so much for this year, but for the next. And then Hugo Hart, who just seems like a natural born athlete and can just do no wrong. He's just one of those guys that can just do anything, and he's good at almost immediately. So from NFL linebacker overseas playing for varsity football college in Southern California, came back to Brisbane, played a bit of rugby, and then last year made his rugby league debut and went from Jersey Flag to SG Ball, or SG Ball to Jersey Flag, then to New South Wales Cup. And he's only just 20 years of age, a very young man, and he's just rising the ranks rapidly. So Hugo Hart, Johansson, Paul Bryan would be those three names that I would suggest that Manly fans look out for in 2026.
Yeah, I think Paul Bryan, I'm with you on that one. Viliami Fifita, I agree with you. I think he just needs a crack, and that with that lack of prop depth that we were talking about for Manly, I think that we could see Viliami Fifita at some point in this 2026 campaign for Manly. But Yes, I went to the same school as Hugo Hart, but Hugo Hart is going to be the one that takes my heart from this list, Sam.
Oh, stop
He
it.
he is the one for me, mate. He is signed a new 3-year deal. Hugo Hart did, Sam, at the back end of last season, actually in August 8th last year, signed a new 3-year deal. He only turned 19 last year, so he's 20, not even 20 yet. And he's obviously, like you said, he's absolutely killing it through the Manly's pathways in his first year. This article was written back in early August, like I just alluded to before, but Hart will play just his 18th game of rugby league when he ran out against the Knights at Four Pines Park. His 9th appearance in the New South Wales Cup after playing 4 games in the SG Ball Cup, followed by 5 games in Jersey Flegg. And like you said, played that varsity football. It's just a
That's a
absolutely
rapid rise, man.
rise. Yeah. And I think a player that has such a rapid rise like that gets signed on a 3-year extension. There's, I think Hugo Hart goes very close, depending on how Manly go this year. If it's not going so well, I think we could see Hugo Hart, like Joey Walsh, potentially maybe Johansson, like you alluded to, or something like that. Sam, Paul Bryan, like these type of guys getting a real crack. But I think Hugo Hart, like looking on with how he's progressing so well, I wouldn't be surprised in 2027 if we're saying Hugo Hart is a man that is playing for like a 1 to 17 first grader for Manly in season 2027. I just think with how he's progressing and the raps that we're hearing out of Manly about him, Sam, I think he's the pick of the bunch. Yes, slight bias, but I do also agree with the bias is outweighed by what Hugo Hart is actually doing with his performances on the field, Sam. So great list. Look, I don't know if Sam said it. I'll say it. I don't think this list is, outside of Hugo Hart being a gem, this list is probably not as good as some of the
Yeah.
other train and
With all due
trial lists that
respect
we've
to those
seen.
players, with all due
Yeah,
respect to those players, it's not as deep, and it's not it is just least amount of information that I've been able to get on a train and trial list so far. But look, there's still some really nice pieces, and I hope
there's still
everybody
some great
succeeds
pieces.
for sure. Just it's just not as deep as the other teams that we've covered so far.
100%, Sam. So let's move on to the 2026 Manly draw, Sam. And as I always do, I love to dissect it very, very finely, bro. So let's go into it. So the Manly Sea Eagles have been gifted an outstanding start to the season with only 4 games against the top 8 sides in the opening 12 rounds of their draw. They also have their opening 3 games at home. Obviously, there's a bye, so technically first 4 weeks. But their first actual 3 games that they're playing are all at home. They should get off to a flyer with the start that Manly have got here in this draw, Sam. The teams that Manly play twice, they verse the Storm, the Sharks, the Dolphins, the Eels, the Cowboys, the Dragons, the Titans, and the Knights. That is some hell of a draw in terms of, it started off not great, but it finished beautifully. The Eels, Dragons, Cowboys, Titans, Knights. They're all bottom 8 sides from last year, and they're playing. Dolphins didn't make the 8 either last year, but Sam and I both do see them making the 8 this season. But Storm and the Sharks are basically the only 2 top 8 teams that they play twice. Wowee. That
Very
is
good.
something for Manly. I'll get your thoughts just after I go through this. Sorry, Sam. The teams they play once, the Raiders, the Bulldogs, the Broncos, the Warriors, the Panthers, the Roosters, the Tigers, and the Rabbitohs. That is a much far worse list of teams, but they only have to verse them once, bro. So it's not the worst. Just like the Tigers that we discussed in the last episode, Sam, Manly also have that very spread out bye schedule. So they've got a bye in round 3, as you can see there on the graphic to my right, round 15, and also round 22. So really spaced out bye round. Sam, before I give my final verdict and go through the teams that they played twice, not play twice, the teams from the top 8 and the bottom 4 that they play, etc., from last year. What are your thoughts? Especially on that run home, Sam, for the Manly Sea Eagles there for this 2026 draw?
It's an extremely kind draw, and I think they, off the top of the dome, I think they are going to be the least travelled team of anybody in the NRL in 2026. Yeah, they've got a couple of trips up to, or a few trips up to Queensland, but really they're not travelling a bucket load in 2026. Now, you mentioned their run to the finals. That starts for everybody in round number 20. Let's look at the opposition and the home and away advantages. So in round 20, they are away to the Gold Coast Titans on a Sunday afternoon. 7 days later, they are hosting Cronulla. Round 22, they have a bye. Round 23, away to Melbourne, but it's a trip over to Perth. I think I'm eating me words, actually. They're doing a little bit of travel, aren't they? But they're going over to the Melbourne Storm, taking on the Melbourne Storm in Perth. Then they host the Dolphins, away to Newcastle, home for the Dragons, and then away for the Warriors. So the strength of opposition, you've got Sharks, Storm, Dolphins, and the Warriors in New Zealand. Half their games are going to be at home. So if they're in a position where they need to win, 4 games out of their last 7, I think they're more than capable of winning at least 3 of these games in the run home to the finals. So it's a tricky one, but I think that if they are zoned in, if they are laser focused, I think that they can pull up a couple more and they could squeeze into the top 8. But it's a bit of a tricky run, opposition wise and travel wise as well.
Yeah. Look, while it is tricky, this is one hell of a draw, Sam. I don't think Manly have any excuses here, especially, picking up a quality player like Jamal Fogarty. Yeah, there's no excuses. They only have 10 games against teams from last year's top 8. 10 games against last year's top 8. Yes, it's last year. Could be different this year, but still. They faced last year's bottom 3 teams, the Dragons, Titans, and Knights, twice, which I don't think I can, in the 9 episodes that we've done, I can say that a team has got that twice. So, look, it's a dream draw, Sam. Manly play, so the games that Manly play against the 2025 top 8 and bottom 9 teams, top 8, 10 games, like I just alluded to just before. The top 4 are measly 5 games. The bottom 9, 14 games. And the bottom 4, 7 games. So that is a lot of games there. The draw gets even better. Manly have 0 5-day turnarounds. 0. I don't think I've said 0 for a 5-day turnaround yet. 6 6-day turnarounds. And a whopping 17 7+ day turnarounds. I'm not even going any further. This draw is an A. It is graded A on my scale. And it is a very, very nice draw. They do have trials against the Warriors and Rabbitohs, which should be good hitouts as well, Sam. But look, this is one of the best draws that we've actually done thus far, Sam. I'm just going to quickly have a quick look. I had a B+ for the Dragons. No, we won't discuss South Sydney's draw. That was an absolute howler. The Dolphins had an A. This is up there. I think Dolphins was the one that took the cake. Or had
I think this is
spot.
nicer, better than Dolphins.
Yeah, I think this is either top or second. This is one of the best draws that we've gone through in our 9 episodes that we've gone through. So 9 clubs, absolute belter for Manly. And like I said, there's no excuses. Really good draw. Great opposition that they have to verse twice, and also as a whole over there, like only 10 games against last year's top 8. That is like extraordinary. That's a really good draw. So look, everything's there for Manly to do really well. Now it's down for Manly to actually, pull their fingers out and, do a really good job. So they've got the quality players there to do so. Speaking of quality players, let's move into Sam and I's round 1 team list. So I'm going to start off first. Look at the back. I've got the skipper, the man himself, Tommy Trbojevic at the back. Look, yes, he could play center, but for me, I think, especially now as captain, I think he'll want to play fullback. If an injury or something strikes, then I think we probably see him go back to playing center. But for me, round 1, I'm starting Turbo at the back. Good off season. I back Turbo at fullback. My wingers, look, as much as I love Blake Wilson and Clayton Falalo was great as well, I'm going with Saab and Lehigh Hopewade on the wings, and I've got Kula and Garrick in the centres. We've got Luke Brooks and Jamal Fogarty, my halves combination. Look very self-explanatory. I've got Paseka and Tokiaho as my props, with Jake Simkin as the hooker. My back row consists of Homole Olakawatu and Ben Trbojevic. My lock is Jake Trbojevic. Again, pretty self-explanatory, that back row into lock. I don't think Jake Trbojevic will play as much as he normally would at the lock position. I think he will play a bit in the middle, especially with the bench and then the Kobe Hetherington acquisition. I think that he'll play a fair bit of lock Kobe Hetherington. So the bench, the Zach Docker-Clay, like Sam alluded to and we touched on in the games, Docker-Clay will come in, replace Gun Chan Kumtong. And Lockie Croker in that role of helping Jake Simkin out in that hooking role. Ethan Bullimore, look, he's been great. He just keeps on plowing along. Ethan Bullimore, another nudgy old boy. So keep doing what you're doing, Bully. Nathan Brown, he is also on my bench. Wow, Nathan Brown, he just has no fear at all, this man. He runs off the back fence of Four Pines Park like basically as much as he can. He loves it. He lives for it, and he just has no care for his body at all. But he's a massive, massive part of this Manly team. And to think that I would say that Nathan Brown is a massive part of a team a few seasons ago, I don't think I would be saying that. But man, if Nathan Brown, or back fence Brown, as they call him, if he's not playing, it's just a really big loss. And he provides such a spark off the bench for Manly, just that hype around seeing him right on the back fence, winding up off the kickoff. It's great to see. And he absolutely works his ass off, just like the other man, Kobe Hetherington. He's just a worker. He'll be great. Got, a bit of skills as well with his ball skills in the middle of the field as well. So that will be very handy as well for Manly and the likes of, Fogarty and the outside backs as well to really benefit off that. I've got Joey Walsh there in jersey 18. Look, we saw him get a glimpse of first grade last year in 2025. I think, if something happens to the halves, he'll be the next man in. Was rated very highly by Daly Cherry Evans, and he did a lot of work with Joey Walsh and gave him a glowing endorsement. So I think if anything goes down or goes wrong with Brooks and Fogarty, I think Joey Walsh will be the man to fill in there. I've got Caleb Navale. This man's definitely going to be playing some first grade in season 2026. I just don't see him in that round 1 team, but there's an injury. He's probably coming in, and you might see like a Viliami Fafita come into the 20, but I think Navale will be the first forward to get a real good crack. And then I couldn't leave out my man, Blakey Wilson. Blakey Wilson is my 20th man there for my team for round one, Sam. So that's my team. You've got a pretty similar team, but a few changes, mate. Let's go through your side.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of talk about Tom Trbojevic and protecting him. And for me, Lehi Hopewadi gets the first crack at the fullback jersey. I completely understand why you have Turbo at fullback and still being a captain, but let's fast track things. Let's make sure that he is protected. Tom Trbojevic, he can still roam to his heart's content and help out when necessary. He'll still be a threat at centre. And Lehi Hopewadi, despite a couple of weird games in the later parts of year 2025, he's still a great young talent, Lehi Hopewadi. So Hopewadi, Saab, and Ruben Garrick. And I saw you have Garrick in its centre, and I think Garrick is just such more of a better winger than he is a centre. I really think Garrick is a better winger than a centre. So I've got Hopewadi, Saab, and Garrick in the back three, Kola and Trbojevic at centres. And Kola, he had a very underrated campaign in 2025, so hopefully he can explode again in 26. And then Brooks and Fogarty out of my halves, Paseka, Simpkin, and Takeaho at the front row, Ola Kawatu and the Trbojevic brothers, Ben and Jake, in the back row. And then, here we go. So jersey number 14, we were talking about the hooking depth, losing Croker and Kumtong. And besides Simpkin, there's not really anybody else that's a recognised hooker. You can argue Zach Docker-Clay, but he's a bit of an older gentleman now. So looking into the tea leaves and reading up on train and trialist and the youth that's coming through, I did happen across Zaidas Mua Gatutia. Good Lord, I hope I didn't butcher that. Zaidas Mua Gatutia. He has a lot of raps on him. And there's actually an article that came out, I think, a couple of weeks ago that would indicate that he is going to be a shock debutant in the early rounds of the 2026 campaign. So in reading that, why not? I don't know anything about him. A lot of people don't. So let's get to find out who he is, because Manly Sea Eagles, they need to blood some hookers very, very quickly. That is their point of concern for the next 1 to 2 years. And starting off with somebody that is already getting raps and rumors about him debuting early on in the year, get him in there. So Mua Gatutia in jersey 14, Ethan Bullymore, he broke out hardcore in 2025. He was amazing. Nathan Brown, Kobe Hetherington, and then I do have Docker-Clay in a jersey 18. Joey Walsh, he's going to be interesting. Now, I wonder if we will see him again in 2026. And then Caleb Navale as well in jersey number 20, Dor. So, I know you want Turbo at fullback. I am going along the line that has been presented for the better part of 18 months now, where people do want to see Turbo in its center. So yeah, no, I'm going Turbo at center, Hopewadi at fullback.
Yeah, I just think that this is a great off season for Turbo, thinking of, he got through the 2025 campaign, then into 2026, everything at the moment, touch wood, it's going really well for Turbo. Got the captaincy now with, DCE moving on. I just feel like that they need him to start at fullback to start the season. If it doesn't go well and, he breaks down because of it, I think then, you bring in like a Blake Wilson, you move Hopewadi to fullback. Turbo serves his time, and then maybe he's just got to, be a center for the rest of his career and, roam around or whatnot. But I'm willing to give him one more crack. Fullback's his best position, in my opinion. Yes, he's a great center, but fullback is his best position. And for me, I I'm actually not going to beat around the bush here. I thought Lehigh Hopewade in the back end of the season of the 2025 campaign was very, very average. And that's to say it lightly. I could have gone a lot further than that. He was so good there at like the start and the middle point of the season. And then I don't know what happened, but the back end, he was just not the same Lehigh Hopewade. I'm not holding that against him. I just would rather Turbo being at the back. Look, I do agree with you to some extent as well with Garrick being on the wing rather than the centers, but I don't know where I can fit Saab and Hopewade in if I don't have them on the wing.
Yep.
So I've got no choice but to put Garrick in the centers.
And just before we move on from the team list, man, with Jake Trbojevich's concerns with his head knocks, especially in 2025, I was a little bit skeptical about him actually being at lock, or if maybe he'd be someone that would be put into the middle, more up at playing in front row, man. But I didn't even know if he was going to start. I had to ask you if he was earmarked to still come out in round one and play. So I don't know. I think Jake Trbojevic might find himself in a couple of different spots in 2026. That's just my gut feeling. I got no info. It might be in for an interesting year, Jake Trbojevic.
You're right, Sam. I said that was what I was sort of alluding to. I think he'll start at lock and then move into the middle at some point, and Hetherington will come on and work his backside off at lock for Manly. You can see in the photo Jakey rocking the latest and greatest technology when it comes to headgears, and I think that's what he's going to be rocking this season to basically try and look, that headgears are not going to mitigate concussions, but at least it's a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, at least he can think that it's helping, if that makes sense. And this is like, again, the latest technology. So again, it'd be better than just your normal headgears that you see, like, your Kalen Pongers and stuff like that wearing. Looks a bit like old Beaver Menzies back in the day, the headgear does. But look, all we want to see is Jake playing football. So if he feels great and looks like, as you can see, he's training with it and everything, getting used to playing with the headgear, because I don't think he has for majority of his career. We wish Jake all the best, but yeah, I do see him moving into a bit more of a prop role, helping out there rather than spending, big minutes playing lock. But we'll wait and see what happens. Let's move to our breakout players. And yes, he didn't make either Sam or mine 1 to 17 team, but this man should have played a lot more first grade games than he has done so already. That is Caleb Navale, Sam. And look, as I'll go along here and eventually find his stats, you can see he played 7 games in 2025 after playing just the 2 in 2024. This is in the NRL level. Look, when Navale plays, Manly win. 7 games, 5 wins, 2 losses. That's a 71% win record, if you can see that, Siebes. 1 try as well for Mr. Navale. Great tackle efficiency, 95.65%. 132 tackles in those 7 games with only 6 missed. 59 run meters. He wouldn't have been playing very big minutes. I just expect Navale to be playing a lot more. Look, let's look at his New South Wales Cup stats, because I think it's a much more fair reflection of why I think Mr. Navale should be playing first grade. And I know Ella, who's a diehard Manly fan, loves Caleb and wants basically every TLT she's looking for, where's Caleb in the team list, because of the work that he is putting in the New South Wales Cup. So you can see still continuing that great tackle efficiency in the New South Wales Cup. but the run meters when he gets the minutes are much, much better. 120 run meters per game in the New South Wales Cup over 17 games. He also played for the Fiji Butty as well in the off season. So, yeah, Caleb Navale, Sam. I think this man is going to break out and be playing a lot of games for the Manly Sea Eagles in 2026. Yes, he's not in my round one team, but I think basically his performance and his form will be too good to ignore if he continues what he's doing in previous years for Siebes to keep him out of that squad. One injury in that forward pack, Navale is in, Sam. So, yeah, that is my breakout player, my friend. Let's move on to yours. Oh, and he's back.
He's back. The Z man, Zydus Makatutia. Listen, as we've said a couple of times already, the hooking depth at Manly is not good. It might be the weakest in the comp that we've seen so far. Jake Simpkin, Zach Docker-Clay, much respect to them as well. Simpkin, he's got to really take the bull by the horns if Manly are to compete for the top 8. But there are all these young players down the pecking order in the Manly squad that have an opportunity. So New South Wales Cup and Jersey Flag is going to be an interesting watch, but someone has to break out if you got it. And if you're going to be a part of the hooking rotation, some young fella's have to step up, and this guy seemingly is going to have the first opportunity. I would give it before Zach Docker-Clay. Zach Docker-Clay is well experienced enough. Manly need to blood these young hookers in as soon as possible, and it just seemingly is looking like that this young man is going to be that. So I'm going to go all chips in, even though I don't have next to any information on him, and I've never seen him play or anything like that. Or yes, I don't have any glasses on, mate. So I'll get you to read that, bro, in a sec.
Yeah,
but I'm going for Zydus to break out and really help Manly's hooking stocks.
Yeah, it's good. Played 19 games last year in New South Wales Cup. He scored 4 tries. I'm just trying to scroll across. Here we go. Didn't really kick the ball that much, but had a couple of cheeky kicks. Had 3 try assists, 14 offloads, 325 tackles, missing 37 in the 19 games. So pretty good, just under 90% tackle efficiency, and 29 meters a game that he was averaging. So look, it's not like bursting through the door, but definitely a good young talent, Sam, especially when I believe he's only he's a pretty young man. So that's not too bad at all. But yeah, I've got to be biased, and I think Navale will be very special. But let's hope both
Agreed.
of these men have a really good 2026 campaign. Nonetheless, now let's move to a much better topic. Let's move to the jerseys, and wow, the away jersey, while simple, I don't know. Something just doesn't work for me with it. I don't know if it's the lines across and them only being 3. I'm not really sure, but yes, it's clean, simple, nice color design. I love the new logo, by the way, for Manly with the 80 years. But for me, not the biggest fan of the away jersey. It's not horrible, but it's not outstanding. Home jersey, however, for me, is a throwback to one of Manly's very special jerseys, Sam. And I like this jersey. I like this home jersey. While it is, again, quite simple, I do like, there's not multiple lines throughout the jersey. They've got that the colors there, just like the old jersey did, as you can see in the background there, just above or just below the maroon or the Manly brown maroon color jersey there at the top part. I think the sponsor, like the Shaw and Partners, there on the shoulders, and the Dynasty logo, like all white and very nice and clean, nothing too extravagant. And then, the sponsor being under the lines and whatnot in that little white space, in that gap. Good sponsor integration there from Manly as well, and a great throwback, in my opinion. Is it as good as the Tigers jersey? No, but is it a quality jersey, this home jersey, and a great throwback to some successful years at Manly? Yes, I think it's a great throwback, and I really like it.
For me, the away jersey, yeah, it's just not working for me. I think it's just the URM sponsorship logo is just maybe a little bit too high. It's not working for me. The Manly home jersey, looking at it now, stationary, it doesn't tickle me. I have a feeling, I was just trying to envision myself watching them, with it on, playing on the paddock. I think it will look better on the paddock than just, Tom Turbo just, hunching over a bit. So no, it's not really tickling me at the moment, but I think it might actually grow on me as I see Manly play their home games throughout the year.
Yeah. So we like the home jersey, not the biggest fans of the away jersey as a whole between the two of us. So not too bad, Manly, not too bad. Now, let's move into our ladder predictions for Manly in the 2026 season. And I'll start off first. For once, Sam and I have got differing opinions. I think with a draw like Manly have, with it being very soft and squishy in the fact of the opposition that they are versing, I think that if they don't finish in the 9 to 13 spot at the very least, I would be really, really shocked. I know Cherry Evans is a massive loss, but you've just signed the minor premiership leading Canberra Raiders halfback, who was absolutely outstanding in the regular season. Yes, his finals wasn't the greatest, but Jamal Fogarty was a huge, huge reason why the Canberra Raiders finished minor premiers in that 2025 campaign. They just got too many good players. They've got Ola Kawatu, Tom Turbo, Coolers just or Tatalau Cola is only going to get better. He's outstanding, I think. Hopewade is improving. I just think that, yes, their depth isn't, again, a bit like the West Tigers, maybe slightly worse than the West Tigers, maybe. I think so. But in regards to depth, but they're like 1 to 17 is a pretty strong list of very quality NRL players, Sam. And the fortress, which is something that we didn't really speak about, but I'm going to bring it up now. The fortress that is Four Pines Park for the Manly Sea Eagles. It's just, you saw it last year. They made multiple upsets against the Broncos, I think against the Storm. They had some good upset wins at home, and it's not a good place to go as an opposition team to Four Pines Park. It is real fortress down at Brookie there. So for me, a great draw, a pretty good list with some real stars. It's just not enough. It's just not enough, the list, unfortunately, for me. Would I be surprised if Manly made the 8? Again, I have said this a lot. No, because that draw is unbelievable. If not the best draw, it's a top 2 draw that we've gone through in the 9 episodes that we've gone through for our 2026 club previews. So for me, I just can't look past that. I can't look past that. And I just don't think that they've got the quality while they do have a really good draw, I just don't think that they will be able to string together as many wins as they need to get into the 8. Unfortunately, look, I don't want to like say stuff, but if there's some injuries there, the depth and players that are coming in, yes, there's a good bit of depth there in the back line, with a Blake Wilson and Clayton Fulalo that could come in, but in the forwards, like Navale, but there's a bit of there's like Waddell, who's, not too bad. He's an NRL quality player, but nothing outstanding. He's just a solid footballer. I do worry, they really struggled when Olakau'atu went down last season. If something happened to Turbo, that would be detrimental. If something happens to Brooks or Fogarty, then they're going to have to debut Joey Walsh is going to have to come in with a hell of a lot of inexperience. Yes, he's, very highly rated, but these youngsters aren't just going to come into first grade and set it alight. Well, some of them will, but, it takes on a repeated basis, probably not. So for me, unfortunately, as I said, I could see Manly make the 8, especially with that draw. But for me, just missing out in the 9 to 13 spot. Sam, what do you think, mate?
So Manly Sea Eagles are the second team that I've put into my 14 to 17 bracket in doing these 20 to 26 previews. I said at the very start of this podcast that they have been consistently inconsistent. They have great players, as you said before, Dor, but these players and this team just have not been able to fire well enough to get into the top 8. And I think at times Manly play very, very soft throughout 2025 and 2024. There are just some games where you just lose trust in them. There was the loss against the Knights and then the loss against the Bulldogs and so on and so forth. Fogarty, it was the best halfback of 2025 in the first half of the season, in my opinion. If we were handing out awards, he would have been the Dally M halfback of the year halfway through 2025. So he's got no problem leading the troops around the paddock, getting them into position to strike. Yes, the concern is that he needs to ice the opportunities. Now, the man inside him, Dor, is somebody that we haven't spoken about yet. Luke Brooks, who has played damn near 250 first grade games now. Luke Brooks, in 2024, when he went to Manly, had a very strong campaign. 2025, I feel like he was largely MIA, to be honest with you, and it was very disappointing. There were games where DCE wasn't playing and Luke Brooks did not step up, say for that game. Take, for example, that game against the Gold Coast Titans on the Gold Coast. That was his moment to be a leader, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen at all in 2025, in my opinion. So you've got a halves pairing where the halfback, yes, he's in very good form and he can lead the troops around, but when it comes to icing moments, there is a massive concern there. And then the other half is a bloke that just can't get into top gear, can't seem to get out of his own head. Defensively, he's a good defender, Luke Brooks. Attacking wise, involvement wise, you just don't know. And at the moment, there's a lot more negative than positive, to be perfectly honest. So you've got a halves combo that have never played together before and have had some confidence issues, for lack of a better term. You've got a hooking situation where you've got Jake Simpkin at hooker, and I think he's a fine player, but he's not Lachlan Croker. And the depth in that position as well, it just means that the spine is a lot weaker already. But then you say, well, Tom Turbo's at the back. Yeah, but what is going to be his journey throughout 2026? Is he going to end up at centre, Hopawade at fullback, or is Turbo going to have a 2021 season where he drags them into the top 8? And that's exactly what's going to happen if Manly are going to get anywhere near the top 8. You talk about the forward pack depth as well. That is a concern. Ethan Bullymore broke out last year. He needs to maintain the rage. Look at Taniela Paseka. He's coming back from an Achilles injury. So unless if he does hit the ground running, and I hope he does, he's a talent. He's a absolute colossus. But he's going to be working off the ring rust. He's going to be knocking off the cobwebs over the first few weeks of the season. Again, over the past few years, they have lost to the teams that they were expected to defeat, and then they upset the mega teams throughout the season over the past 3 years. Anthony Seibold is under big pressure, not the biggest. I think that if Manly they do finish 14-17 in 2026, I think we will be announcing. I think we'll see the announcement of a new head coach at Manly for the year 2027. Honestly, I don't have them as a hope to win the premiership. I don't. I have very, very little faith and hope for them that they will make the top 8. Looking at the draw, it does give me just a fraction more hope, especially the start to it. But I can't trust Manly, especially over the past few years. I think at times they mentally just they play one half and then they disappear in the second, or vice versa. I think at times that they can play a bit soft, honestly, and this might all come back to bite me in the backside. But honestly, I think Manly are a bottom 4 team on paper this year, with no confidence in the halves pairing and too much pressure on Tom Trbojevic. If your halves and your hooker are failing, Dor, who else are they going to look to? So Tom Trbojevic, sure, but he can't do everything. So who else is going to be that strike weapon for the Sea Eagles? Is it going to be Olakau'atu to just knock down the front door every single carry? That's a lot of work. That's a lot to ask for the young man to put onto his shoulders. And then Kohler, well, if he can get good ball by his halves or Turbo, then sure. But I don't. I think Fogarty will be fine. I think Fogarty will be good. I just don't think that when it comes to the crunch, if it's like a 18-all scoreline with 5 minutes to go, besides Turbo, I don't know who pulls it out of the fire for them, honestly.
Has to be Fogarty, Sam. It's the reason why they got him there, even though that he hasn't really shown it in those moments. It has to be Fogarty. That's why he's been brought to Manly. Yeah, look, I don't disagree with any of the points that you've raised at all, Sam. It is a big concern. But look, I'll put this down right now. If the Manly Sea Eagles if they do finish in the bottom 4 with that draw, Seibold will be gone, and they will be the biggest embarrassment in season 2026 if they cannot make the at least above 13th place with that draw, because that draw is probably the best draw in the NRL thus far that we've gone through in 9 rounds. And I will struggle to think if there might be maybe 1 or maybe 2, but I reckon there's not many that have got a better draw than the Manly Sea Eagles in season 2026, Sam.
Well, look, let's just look at their opening, just first 5 weeks, just the first 5 weeks. So they host the Raiders, they host Newcastle, they host the Roosters, and then they're away to the Dolphins at Redcliffe. Besides the Newcastle Knights, I am tipping all the other teams in that opening 5 weeks. I know that's really jumping the gun there, but even the Newcastle Knights with Sandon Smith and Dylan Brown, Kalen Ponga back, they're going to be up to that game in their eyeballs, man. I don't think they're going to go undefeated. I don't think they're going to go.
Have you seen the Newcastle forward pack?
Yes. We will get to the Newcastle Knights in due course, sir. But man, I know. But I look at that opening first 5 weeks, man, and honestly, I'd be impressed if they won 2 of those 4 games, to be honest with you, mate.
So at Brookie though, bro, at Four Pines,
You know,
spiritual
the only
home.
reason they won their final 3 games of the season is because they all finally did wake up to the fact that DCE is going. And I mean, they didn't play good footy as well. Sorry, they did defeat Dragons to the tune of 40-24. But
I was gonna say.
sorry, I was going to say, yeah, no, sorry. But like that game against the Warriors, and then the Dolphins didn't show up.
The Dolphins were awful in that game.
But like beforehand, like they were listless against the Tigers, man. That Bulldogs game, I haven't had a good feeling about Manly all off season, mate. And
don't change your thoughts. You just
I'm not changing my thoughts. I'm sticking with you. I'm sorry, Manly fans. I think that this will be a bit of a rough old year. I think Manly are a bottom 4 team in 2026.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I think if they do finish bottom 4 with that draw, like I said, what I said before,
Seabold won't be around.
Seabold won't be around. That will be they will be the biggest embarrassment with that draw and the list with, you know, some quality players and whatnot. I'm still yet to put a second team into the bottom 4, but that will come in podcast to come. But anyway, that's a good podcast for the Manly Sea Eagles, Sam, nonetheless. Look, we're both not predicting them to make the 8. But look, there is some good things coming out of Manly with the likes of Hugo Hart leading the way with some, like, just a real beacon that is shining bright from Manly, and, you know, some quality gains to mend some huge losses. None other than Daly Cherry Evans, Manly Warringah Sea Eagle great. Daly Cherry Evans will go down as served that club with his full heart and 110% every single week for Manly. So big shoes to fill for Jamal Fogarty. Very interesting to see how Manly go in season 2026. Will Sam and I eat our words, or will we be proven correct? But thanks again, everyone, for watching another great episode or a preview, should I say, into a club's 2026 preview. Obviously, this one being the Manly Sea Eagles. We wish Manly all the best. And we thank you all for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.
Tuning in. Thank you, Sam. And yes, just make sure, if you haven't done so already, to subscribe to our basically to our channels, the All Out Club on YouTube and Spotify, and also Wobble and Jaw Sports as well on YouTube for Sam. So go and subscribe and like this episode and following episodes and previous ones, and then also give us a follow on social media as well. All Out NRL Fantasy is where you'll find us on social media, and then Wobble and Jaw Sports, you'll find Sam on all social media as well. A bit more simpler for Sam than us over here at the All Out Club and All Out NRL. So no, thanks so much again. Thank you, Sam, for your company, and we will see you in the next one. Remember, it could be your club next. It is a surprise. I did not spoil anything here, so it will be a surprise for the next one. So we'll see you then, and very much look forward to your company. Thanks, Sam. Catch you guys.